Welcome back to the Down the Stretch segment of the show Get Tied On. And my special guest today is a friend that I've known a long time, Eddie Barker, a trainer on the New York circuit for many years. Eddie, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you very much for having me, man.
It's a pleasure. You know, when I think of you, I think of a trainer that nobody's harder working than you. I mean, I come every time I visit you, you're always there, no matter what time. You're generous with your time. You've been just a tremendous hard-working horseman since you started in the 90s, right? Early 90s?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, early 90s.
Is this, being a trainer in New York, just being a trainer, was it something that you wanted to do as a kid?
No.
What did you, I mean, like, when did you decide that you wanted to be a horseman?
Well, I started owning horses. I had a couple of horses.
Flat horses?
Yeah, thoroughbreds. My first trainer was the guy I ended up working for, was Tommy Miles in Belmont. And I had one or two horses with him. Then I had those horses, you know, couldn't make it in New York anymore, and we ended up in Delaware with an old horseman, a really good horseman. I learned a lot from him. His name was Everett Pratt.
Right.
And he was a real hands-on, old-school trainer. And I spent weekends with him, and, you know, I just started getting the idea that this may be what I want to do, you know.
And this was probably in the 80s, right? Late 80s?
84, 85.
Okay,
yeah.
85. Mm-hmm. So when I started the Wizard Sheet and you started getting into the game, it was pretty much the same time.
Okay, yeah.
You know, so we kind of parallel in our history of the game, just differently. I just want to ask you, Eddie, what the game back in the 80s when we started and the 90s, you know, like the last 30, let's take, we've been in the game 40 years, about.
Okay.
So let's say the first 10 years, 20 years, how is the game different from your perspective as it is compared to today?
Well, when I first started, you know, I only had 2 horses, and gradually I got 3 or 4 or 5. And, you know, within 4 or 5 years, I felt that when I brought a horse over to run, I had at least a 50-60% chance of winning. I didn't think I never even gave it any thought that, you know, that I'd be up the track with a particular horse, you know, because the competition at that time was more level. And, you know, the claiming game was different in that you could run horses every 2 or 3 weeks. You know, there was a whole lot of different things at the time, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. My first year in Saratoga was 95, and I won my first 3 races up here. You know, and I said, what's so hard about Saratoga? You know? So, you know, it was different in that I just felt that you know, working hard and paying attention to the horse and doing the right thing by the horse was 75% of it, you know. And if you did that, your horses would really perform, you know. And things over the last 30 years just have changed, you know, in that, you know, there's very few real horsemen left on a racetrack. There's a lot of trainers, but they're either retiring or getting out for financial reasons and what have you. But you know, I'm still sticking in there. So it's been 30 years, and I love what I'm doing. Incidentally.
Oh, I mean, look,
you know.
I visit you and I see the passion you have for your horses, and you've also made some great claims.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's not, you've had stake winners.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just rattle off some of the horses that you claim for you didn't claim horses for a lot of money.
No.
And you moved them way up, and just mention some of those horses.
Well, you know, I was fortunate maybe training like 7 or 8 years. I trained for a fellow by the name of what the hell was his name? Smith. Trying to think of. Oh boy, I can't think of his first name right now. Well, anyway, he was a great guy, and he knew about the sheets. I claimed off the sheets. We had different opinions at times, but we made some awful good claims. I mean, for one, I can think it was for Love and Honor. I had him for 2.5 years, and that horse he just ran and ran and ran and ran, and we never. I don't think I ever put a needle in him. It was just ice him, tub him, hot tub, bop, right. That stuff. Keep him happy, train him light, and run him. And that horse, he was probably the most consistent horse that I ever claimed.
York,
back when the purses were nothing, I think we made over 200,000 with him.
York is the name
Seymour
right?
Seymour Smith. I'm sorry.
Seymour.
Yeah.
Okay. Yorkapoo Princess was that? Is that? Did I get? Am I getting the name right?
Yorkapoo Princess. We bought her at the OBS sale in April for $11,000. She was originally sold as a yearling for $60,000, but she was really, really crooked. And I thought, with the breeding and the way she breezed, I thought, hey, for that kind of money, let's take a shot, And she made almost $600,000.
And won stakes races.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, stake after stake. As a matter of fact, I think she was second in the Grade 1 in the Colonial Downs, one of them. But she was. I mean, her conformation was just horrible. I mean, she looked like a giraffe training out there.
When I talk to you about horses, and we've had many conversations over the years, it's as if you get a project.
Yeah.
It's like you love this scenario. You get a horse that has issues.
Right.
And you take your time, and you, like a real horseman, and you figure out from head to tail
right.
what I can do to improve this horse. And then you do it. Right.
Well, we bought her, and as a 2-year-old, and Danny Chin bought the horse. We had 2 2-year-olds the first year, her and a horse called Kissin' Cassie, and both of them, they had real flaws in their conformation, And I told them, I said, listen, we're going to have to train these horses old school. I said, we're going to start from scratch. And he said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, we're going to breeze her 1/8 of a mile slow every 4 days, okay? And we're going to do that for a month. And then we're going to go to 1/4 of a mile every 4 days for a month. And basically, that's how she ended up winning so many races and having such an extended career, because when you do that type of training, it's old school. I still do it today. I don't know many trainers do, but basically what you're doing, you're building bone and you're developing joints. Even though they're crooked and they're back at the knee or turned out, with that type of foundation, I really believe that they will last a long time. Sooner or later that conformational flaws are going to get to them. But she was an amazing horse. She was, and we had another horse called Fact of This. I think we paid $16,000 for him. I think we won $230,000 the first year with him, and got claimed up here for $62,500, and he went on to make over $1 million. I ran second in, I can't remember what stake it was, and Danny Goggin called me. He says, Eddie, that horse for sale? I said, sure. He said, well, I said, Danny, you're going to like this horse, He said, don't worry about it. That horse is running fast enough numbers, I don't have to worry about it. So he came over and looked at him. We brought him out of the store. He says, how'd you get him to the races?
Right.
That's so, And he says, I told you. He said, no, I can't buy this horse, But he really turned out to be a fabulous horse, and he lasted a long time. So it's with the babies, it's a foundation type of thing. With claiming horses, which is the thing I really prided myself on, I'd be able to take a horse from, I didn't care who it was. Mostly I like to take from people who I know on the backside don't take care of the horses in the proper manner, or miss a lot of stuff, and when you can get that horse and correct his issues, as long as there's nothing broken, all right, and that horse ran good numbers within the last 6 months, I can get him to run those numbers every single time, as long as there's no crack in the knee or a bow tendon or anything like that. If it's just ulcers, wrong shoes, bad teeth, that type,
right,
and just some TLC for a month or two, them horses are going to run, and they do.
I remember talking to my friend Larry, who claims fillies for broodmare prospects, and he claimed a horse. I don't want to mention the trainer, but he brought the horse, came back and went to Kentucky, and like the teeth were really bad. Just like fixing the teeth, right? Like ingrown teeth that were hurt, and
cuts in their jaw and inside their mouth. And
a wrong bit.
Right.
That's so you have a horse that has a bad mouth and has a wrong bit. It's not going to run.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to fix that. And a lot of this particular trainer just paid no regard to that, and the horse improved for Larry's trainer in Kentucky once he did that kind of, even something as simple as the teeth.
Besides the teeth, the shoes have a lot to do with it. I claim horses. Sometimes I look at these and I said, they got a size two or three sizes too small on the shoe, and the horse's feet are all contracted, and the horse won't run like that.
Isn't that comparable to like us, that we fit into a size 11, but somebody gives us shoes and it's not size 9, and you walk around with the size 9 and you're in pain.
Yeah,
you can't even walk. It's the same principle.
Same thing. And some of the things I do when I first claim a horse is, number one, I go right into the mouth, and with my to see if the teeth have to be done. Okay, then I hit acupuncture points for ulcers, and between them two things, I would say almost 80% of the time, those two things will stop a horse in them, and they won't run with them.
Right.
And then I go to the shoes, and of course, you're concerned about knees and ankles and that kind of stuff. But if they don't have any of that, and they're only running poorly because of neglect, more or less, then you can turn a horse around in no time.
So, when I think of Eddie Barker, I think of like just the working man, the working stiff, the blue collar, the blue collar guy, right?
Stiff,
the blue collar guy, right? The guy that just shows up at the barn at 4:30 in the morning. You live out in Long Island. You have to travel 70 miles one way,
right?
140 miles a day.
Yeah.
And you showed me a truck. It looks like it's got 1 million miles on it, right?
300,000.
But you show up and you're doing the grunt work, okay? And you have a stable of 15, 16, 17 horses, so it's very manageable. But there's a bunch of guys like you on the backstretch.
Oh, sure.
Okay, and the modern day way the game is set up, it's stacked against you.
Yes.
And like, I had the HISA woman on, Lisa Lazarus, and I really didn't have a lot of time, and I wasn't interested in talking from the horseman's point of view, because she's done that many times.
Right.
I wanted to talk about it from the better, from how it affects not just the drugs in the game, not just the cheaters in the game that they're trying to flush out.
Right.
Right? But the drops in odds in the pools, the how the juicers affect us as a handicapper, right? The form reversals.
Right.
What we can't handicap like we used to handicap.
Right.
You have, when Navarro was training, you'd look at a horse off the claim, and he looked awful. Well, do you have to say, you know, I'm picking this horse because I know he's juiced, right?
First time Navarro.
First time Navarro, first time Jason Service.
Yeah.
I talked about to Lisa more from the better, okay? And I was, you know, I was kind of like speaking for all of us, because the truth of the matter is, without the better, there's no game.
Absolutely.
Okay? We support the
better
game.
and the owners.
The bettors and the owners, right. So you are a great representation of the backstretch, of the horsemen. HISA, there's good in what they're trying to do, right? I mean, in the end, when they get it right, we're going to hopefully have a better, even playing field.
Right.
And that's what we want.
Of course.
But talk about, like, from a horseman's perspective, from the backstretch, what the new HISA rules, how it affects you from a negative point of view and from the positive point of view. Like, just talking for the spokesman for the horseman, like I was a spokesman for the gambler.
Right. Well, the negativity, we'll start with that, is I believe that HISA is really a real opportunity to straighten out this game, you know, and get it on a level playing field. But they should have done it a little bit at a time, you know, work their way in and get more advice from active horsemen, okay, which apparently they did not. And they came out with all kinds of rules on shoeing, on injections, on this, on that, when we had a, my typical pre-race up until HISA came along was I'd give them Adequan 3 days out.
What is Adequan?
Adequan's a shot that goes in the muscle that helps the joints.
Right.
Okay. And then the day before the race, we used to give them either Legend or Podiglycan, which is the same thing, and that goes directly to the joints and really helps the horses. It really does. I mean, it keeps them sound. Okay. And we used to give them a jug. Now we can't give a jug the day before.
What is a jug? What is
a vitamin jug or electrolytes, that type of thing? You know.
So it's like a Gatorade for an athlete.
Correct.
Right. Gatorade.
Yeah. So we're restricted from doing that, and all that does is help the horse. Okay. That helps the horse. That helps the horse get through the Lasix and all the nonsense that and the hot weather and the loss of electrolytes is a big disadvantage for horses, and again, the Legend or the Polyglycan, which is expensive, but that only helps the horses. It does nothing. It's a supplement, an injectable supplement that helps the joints. Okay, and I found out so what I have to do now, I have to back it up another 2 days. But the point I'm trying to make is, I've done that for 30 years, okay? And I can tell you, I maybe 5 times a year for the last 20 years, I might inject the horse.
Inject in what?
Well, in other words, inject, take the fluid out of the knee, say, and put good fluid back in, that type of. But by giving them these particular supplements, you avoid that. Okay, in most cases. Okay, so that is wrong. If we're looking at for the good of the horse, then they should allow or have a conference with real horsemen, that really know what they're doing, and hear the negatives that's going on here, because things that can help the horse and keep them in training, okay, is paramount. It really is. But if we can't do that, what can we do to help the horse? Listen, every football player in the NFL has issues. Okay, every one of them.
not just football.
Yeah.
I have issues. Okay.
Yeah.
I have issues. You know what my issues are? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
My bursa, right? Every 6 months, I have to go to the doctor to get an injection of cortisone in my bursa, so I can get up when I'm sleeping. I don't feel the pain.
Yeah.
I can turn on my side. I can walk and feel less pain.
Right.
It's not going to make me run faster.
No.
It's just going to make me feel less pain.
The problem with cortisone, it destroys the joints.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's why my joints.
And in that regard, you know, they're right. Okay. I mean, there's just too damn much tapping going on. You know, and now you can't. I think it's 14 days. You can't run for at least 14 days after you inject the horse. Okay. So there's probably a lot less injecting going on right now, but if that horse needs that, you know, you're not masking anything, you know, what you're doing is you're putting good fluid. I don't believe in it. I don't like tapping horses, okay? I never have. We do a lot of ice therapy, whirlpool, all that kind of stuff. But, and again, those supplements, the Legend and the Adequan, you know, it just really helps the horses. And, you know, they have to understand that these are athletes, and you got to try to make these athletes as comfortable as you possibly can without masking anything. Okay.
Yeah, and they're running fast over hard surfaces, over, you know, different types of surfaces, and the breed has changed. They're not the sturdy Darby Dan Rokeby horses of yesteryear. They're fragile.
Right.
So you want to keep, and you want to be able to run them every 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Now sometimes you're sitting for 2 months, 3 months.
Well, there's a reason for that, but. You know, I mean, they come up with silly things like we can't use a foot freeze. You know, we used to use stuff called Rickens, and all that. You know, those tracks are hard, and they pound on them. You know, and that goes right up through the foot, right up into the joint. You know, but by being able to use that, you know, just all you're doing is painting some basically iodine on them. Oh, they don't let us do that anymore. Okay, so the horse is good. You know, and you know, this now they have these, you know, voidie claims and stuff, you know. Well, I can tell you, probably half of the voidie claims are horses that just went out and ran their butt off, okay, and they're gonna have little dingy here and a little dingy there. A lot of it's feet, okay, and not lame, but they're not jogging like they should for the vet.
Right after the race.
Right after the race. I mean, listen, those horses just went through hell. You know, they're out there hard. They're trying hard. And, you know, to come back and watch a horse jog off 25 minutes after the race, well, man, you know.
So let's make a distinction between maintenance medication, right? And the real drugs that they should be going after, right?
Correct.
There's a different distinction between that.
Yeah.
So like the cheaters cheated. They use stuff that you wouldn't even think of using, or most trainers, you know, a lot of you honest trainers would never think using, right?
Well, and again, that's the one good thing about HISA, because, you know, the perception of possibly getting caught with something like this and getting ruled off, well, I can see already there's a number of different trainers out there that just went, you know, their numbers have gone down terribly. But it's because of the perception, you know, you know, if we get caught here, boy, we're in trouble. So they stopped, you know, and perception's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Supposedly, HISA has very, very sophisticated testing, more sophisticated than anything we've ever had, supposedly. But I personally haven't seen anything really come up that would make me stand on end. You know, say, you know, like some kind of foreign drug or something that maybe makes the horse dilate, the lungs dilate better or something. You know, I haven't seen any of that stuff getting, you know, coming up in the news. I don't know, you know, I think, first of all, you probably have to know what you're testing for, and that's a big problem. But again, HISA has its good and its bad, okay? And the bad is what they should know is the horse comes first, okay? And I don't know where they got all their advice in the beginning to make up all these rules, because most of them are wrong, you know, and that's unfortunate.
How's the condition book now, like for the horsemen? Like, is it harder to keep owners now as a claiming trainer? Like, is it, you know, like, what's your experience with it?
I'll tell you. I'll give you an example. I can't think of his name right now. But
Danny Chen?
No, Danny Chen's been with me about 15 years, a very loyal owner. And we were very successful in the claiming.
Oh,
business,
yeah,
you know.
big time. Princess Peekaboo, that was one of them, one of many.
Yeah, but the claiming horses we claimed were great too.
Yeah.
I mean, we did great with them. And my idea of claiming a horse is to, number one, get them right, okay? Do their teeth, get rid of the ulcers and all that, and train them light, okay? You jog them 4 or 5 days, you know, you walk them 4 or 5 days, you jog them 8 or 10 days, and that next race on the minimum 25% race should be within 18 or 20 days, and you run them.
Right.
Okay, no breezing, no hard training, you run them. Well, it's not there anymore.
Why?
I don't know.
Is it the condition book? Is it the way the condition book is written?
Absolutely. It's just, I think there's a mindset that the less a horse runs, the better he's going to be. Well, that's absolutely wrong. That's wrong. Because if you can run a horse back in 15, 18 days, and you know that they're sound, and you fix some things wrong with them, they should run, man. You know, the worst thing in the world is to claim a horse for $20,000, keep them in jail for 30 days. You got to breeze them once or twice before they run, and that's maybe where you're going to do some damage. They should have that $30,000 claim. There should be a 45, 15 days later. I had when I was in Aqueduct, prior to moving over here to Belmont, I had the highest number of starts per stall 3 years in a row of any trainer in New York. And the reason being is back then, you first thing you do, you claim a horse. Where are we going to run them? Okay. And you say, all right, we'll pick out, providing everything's, on the up and up and the horse is sound and what have you. But we're not able to do that now. And I don't know if they're getting pressure from HISA or, the gaming board. I don't know, but the condition book is completely changed. And it's somehow I get the feeling that who's ever directing this, they think it's better to run a horse every 60 days, and it's not. And it really is not for claiming horses, okay? Because all you're going to do is damage. And, people, oh, he's running them every 10 days. I've run horses back in 3 days and win with them.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I run horses back in 3 days, 7 days. If they're sound and they're happy, that's what they want to do. They don't want to sit in the stall and be overtrained. Probably 70, 80% of your horses are overtrained anyway.
Right. What does Eddie Barker do working, let's say you get in at 4:30 in the morning, you have a horse in the least amount of hours you work is probably 10 hours a day.
Right. Well,
but you can work 15-hour days if you have a horse in a later race, right?
Yeah,
so then you got a 70-mile trek back to your house.
Yeah.
What does Eddie Barker do for relaxation? Like to just decompress?
Well, I like to fish.
Okay. Are you fishing up here?
I haven't as much as I want.
Have you caught anything?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. That's worse than not cashing a bet. Eddie.
You're right.
Eddie, you're having a tough meet. Eddie.
Boy.
I mean, at least catch some fish for us to cook.
Well, we got some time. I'm going to do some fishing now. It's been so busy, and it's difficult. Most of my help has been with me 10 or 15 years, but coming up here, one or two people don't want to come, and you can't, so it's difficult to hire, so that's the other thing. But one of the things I really want to discuss with you is, I've been thinking about it. the game, how has the game really changed, and why do we see all these 5 and 6 horse fields?
Okay.
Okay.
The stage is yours, Eddie
Okay.
B.
Well, the reason being, probably 15% of the trainers have 75% of the horses.
Right.
Okay. Now, if I'm one of those guys that's got 150 horses, and I got 5 horses that just broke their maiden, they're all ready to run an A out of N, they're only going to run 1. Okay. They're not going to run 2 or 3. They're going to run 1. And what happens is those other 5 or 6 horses that are eligible for that condition are sitting out. You got 4 guys doing that. Okay, so 6 other horses are sitting there waiting to take their turn. Okay, and in this guy's barn and that guy's barn. So instead of having a 10, 12 horse field, you got a 6 horse field. You know, and that's the one thing that I think is really hurting our industry right now is the size of the fields and small trainers like myself. I mean, just, you know, the expenses and the cost of doing business in New York is atrocious. And I don't make any money on my day rate. I probably lose money on my day rate. So for me to make money, okay, or at least break even, I have to run horses, okay? And I entered a horse up here already 4 different times. The horse hasn't got in, and sitting on a win. I can't get her in. I mean, that's frustrating. And, you know, but like I said, something really should be done with the allotment of stalls at any one particular track. And I think the only one that can do something like the racing office, the genie's out of the bottle. They can't do anything about it because they'll offend Todd or Chad or Christopher or whatever. The only one that can do anything about it is HISA. And HISA should sit down and say, hey, we believe for the good of the horse that one trainer should only have 60 horses at one venue.
Wow, that's a good point.
All right, so he's 60 horses here, 60 horses in Monmouth, 60 horses in Delaware Park, 60 horses in Laurel, okay? And sooner or later, some of them are going to say, hey, you know, I want to run in New York. And so some of them horses are going to come back. See, that's, years ago, it was a 38 stall limit, okay? And that's how horses, and occasionally good ones, dribbled down to the smaller trainer, the smaller outfit, and they were able to get their hands on a good horse every once in a while, or at least be able to stay in business. You know, that does not happen now.
You know, I really appreciate, you really educated me, and I think I know a lot about the game, but I didn't, from your perspective, I really understand, and I appreciate you speaking up and being honest, because it's people like you. That's who I want on this show, to be honest and talk about the game for what it is and not, you know, color-coded it.
It's the greatest game played outside. I love it. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't wait to get to the barn. I'm 78 years old and I'm still doing it. But that's 78. Not, the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of really good horsemen, you know, with 15, 16, 20, 25 on the backside. A lot. And
hard workers and great people.
Good, hard-working trainers that'll never get the opportunity to get the real good quality horses, because the way the stall allotment is now, it's just, you know, I mean, it's crazy. It's just,
Eddie B, a real pleasure to have you on, an honor to have you on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Visit wizardracingsports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. Wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit wizardracingsports.com and purchase now.